The dust of the Dragon Song War has begun to settle. If you remember a little earlier, we agreed to have a drink with Sir Imric. We are now following up on that promise and recounting tales of the past that led up to where we are today. He loves hearing our stories, as it proves that there is much more to see in these lands than he used to believe. We ask him to come on our adventures with us. He'd love to accept such an invitation, but regrettably he cannot. He has duties here in Ishgard that cannot be ignored. Together, we have helped create the foundation for a new future. Now that the government has been changed, the people need to also change and forget their bloody past. Hopefully Imric will live long enough to see some measure of success in his dream. The only thing that gives him resolve is remembering the moment we fearlessly walked towards Nidhogg on the steps of faith. If we could do that, the people of Ishgard could do anything. We raise our glasses into the air and toast to this occasion. Imric wants to ask us something personal. Now that everything is over, what will we do now? Not as a scion, but what do we want for ourselves? Before we can answer that, we are interrupted by a knight of House Fortemps who has an urgent message for us. It seems that Thancred has returned with an injured woman, and we are requested to return to House Fortemps effective immediately. Imric tells us to go, and he will come with us.
For every ending marks a new beginning. From tragedy and sacrifice, we rise to greet a new dawn, as did he, only to be drawn unto another battlefield, another cause, as if by fate.
In House Fortemps, we see that the injured woman Thancred brought was Alisaie, who we haven't seen since we defeated Bahamut. Alisaie was following the Warriors of Darkness and attempted to shadow them after learning of their activities. But she isn't so good at making herself hidden. Thancred saved her in the Twelveswood, but they continued to chase them all the way to the Ishgardian border. A battle took place, which led to Alisaie taking an arrow into her shoulder. A poisoned arrow. Her condition is stable for now, but the poison is still in her blood. Imric reassures everyone by telling us that she will be under the care of his most skilled Chirurgians. Before Alisaie is taken away for care, she calls for us. She tells us of the Warriors of Darkness and how they are working for the Ashians. Killing the Primals is just the first step in their plan. They are making their way to Xel-Fatol to summon Garuda. We must stop them. She uses up the last of her strength to finish off her sentence. A primal summoning cannot be ignored, so we leave for Xel-Fatol as fast as possible. Ishgardian knights from Camp Dragonhead have already gone ahead of us to clear a path to Xel-Fatol. We rush through the Ixai's domain, slaying the beastmen. Eventually we arrive at the peak of the mountain and put a stop to the ritual. With the beastmen defeated, Garuda cannot be summoned. Now the Ashians' plan cannot come into fruition. We should leave at once, as the rest of the Ishgardian knights are waiting for us to return. An unknown voice calls out to us, telling us that we better not have killed the primal without them. It's the Warriors of Darkness. Everything was going to plan until we arrived to stop them. We need to get out of here. We are outnumbered and cannot hope to face all of them at the same time. The bard readies her bow once more, but is stopped by the Warrior of Darkness. They don't want to upset the man in white with any unnecessary bloodshed. What could these people hope to possibly get from scheming with the Ashians? He will explain it to us. Consider it a reward for beating them to Garuda. We know the tale of Hydaelyn and Zodiac, of the Great Sundering and the reflections it created. The shards split into 13, each being a mirror of Source. One of those reflections, aptly named the first, is their home, and they were once heroes, blessed with light. Not every reflection that was created holds the same amount of dark and light. On the first, the power of the light was much stronger. The Ashians were no match for their strength, and fell quickly. It was meant to be a victory for them, but the light got out of control. It was a flood of pure light that eradicated all color and life on the first. It will consume his world and leave nothing in its wake. It's a hard story to believe, but he backs up his statement by talking about a different reflection, one that had more dark than light. That world ended up being consumed by the dark and turning it into the void, which is where voidsent come from. Unchallenged dark condemned that world. Unchallenged light means to do the same to them, so they decided to ally themselves with the Ascians, who helped them get the source. The only way to fix the first is to cause an umbral calamity on source. That way the barriers between the worlds would be removed and rejoined, to doom our world, to save his. It doesn't make sense. What would happen to his world once it has been rejoined? What would happen to him? But he won't talk anymore. We now know their cause, and we know what is at stake. They are prepared to do whatever is necessary to save their homes. Are we? There is much to think about, but it is no good to do it here. Instead, we should leave and check on Alisaie's condition. Alisaie has regained consciousness and is on her way for a full recovery. Our mission was a complete success, but we have to tell the rest of the Scions about what the Warriors of Darkness told us. Even as ridiculous and impossible it sounds, it doesn't necessarily contradict Minfilia's words. The reason Alisaie started to follow the Warriors of Darkness is that she started to hear tales of another band of adventurers who were able to defeat the Primals. By following their movements, she found out that they were in league with the Ascians. The tribes are pushed to summon Primals. With the news that Nidhogg was slain, the tribes ended up being afraid of man and wanted protection. Therefore, they began harvesting crystals and summoning their Primals once more. It should come at no surprise that the Ascians are manipulating some tribes and making sure that a steady stream of crystals flow into their hands. If supply lines can be severed, then we can slow down the summoning of the Primals. Y'shtola and Krill will check where the Ixai get their crystals. Imric and Thancred will find where the Nath get their supply. As for the rest of us, we will speak with Urianger. We need to know where would be the most ideological place to go next. Alisaie wants to come along with us. She knows that we may worry about her injuries, but she is fine, and she won't be the burden she once was. When speaking with Urianger, we learn that he may know who the Warriors of Darkness will be targeting next. There are rumors that the kobolds are on the move and preparing to summon Titan. We meet a lone kobold child who is named Gabu. His parents were captured by the Patriarch and were going to be used as a sacrifice to summon Titan. He doesn't want that to happen and has come to warn the Maelstrom of its summoning and wants to help prevent it. He helps us locate crystals until we come across a third spot, only to find that they are missing. It seems that they were moved into the crag and the kobolds are ready to summon Titan. We use the same method we did before and teleport directly into the crag to save Gabu's parents and stop Titan's summoning. We demand to know where his parents are so we can put an end to this madness. The Patriarch looks towards what seems to be 2 kobold corpses. The moment Gabu spots them, he runs towards their lifeless bodies. Alisaie bursts with emotion. How could he do this? They are servants of the Lord of Crags. If he wants to partake of their flesh and blood, then he can. He will draw strength from his children and defend them from the tyranny of the Overdwellers. We understand his fear of the Overdwellers, the drive to protect those who are in your command and do whatever it needs to make sure that they cannot be harmed again. But in your pursuit of protection, you have sacrificed one of your own people, which is going against the very thing you swore to defend. But it does not need to be this way. Stop trying to summon Titan and join us in building everlasting peace. Za'harak scoffs. Another peace that will be abandoned at the Overdwellers' convenience. Overdwellers take and take and take and take until you can't take anymore. And then there is peace, until you need to take again. Then we dare to defend our lands, and you declare us a beast tribe, that our god will drain the land of its aether. Then you use that as a reason to cause death and suffering on our people. We will not suffer your lies no more. You've ruined your own lands. You cannot ruin ours. All of the kobolds screech in agreement with their patriarch. Gabu is still with his parents. He did it. He came to them just as he said. He's here. He's here. Why won't you say something? Anything. Please. Please. Suddenly the nearby aether crystals start to glow and Titan starts to form from the nearby rocks. Without realizing it, Gabu's prayers for his parents' return is being answered and bringing Titan to life. All of the kobolds are happy to see Titan awake, but it is not under their control. Titan swats the nearby kobolds, then turns his gaze to Gabu and is ready to kill him too. But before he can land his blow, Alfinawad sends his onyx carbuncle directly at his face and uses that as a distraction to escape from the crag. Gabu is unconscious after using all of that aether to summon Titan, but it cannot be left untouched, so he immediately gets sent back into putting the rampaging avatar of grief out of its misery. We slay Titan and report our victory to the Maelstrom. They decide it is time to throw a party. Whilst at the party, we notice that Alisaie and Gabu are nowhere to be found, but we spot them wandering off to a cliffside. They are sat, looking heavensward to the stars above. She brought Gabu over here because he didn't feel too welcomed at the party. Maybe a change of scenery might have done him some good, but it hasn't. We finally have our first real talk with Alisaie since reuniting after defeating Bahamut. The stars above are spread out across time and space. She reflects on the words, "The dawn will banish even the most darkest nights, and how bittersweet they truly are." For all of her experience, she should be stronger, but right now her heart aches more than ever. She could never understand why Louisoix sacrificed himself to these lands. The people were always bickering and being petty. She was angry. How could these people's lives be more deserving of his love than his own family? But after he revealed his true intentions to us in the Coil of Bahamut, she finally understood his reasoning. After that, she wanted to continue his legacy on in her own way. Her journey has been enlightening, but she hasn't really enjoyed the time spent. There are so many petty cries that she couldn't resolve. There were people whose actions she couldn't understand. But there were good people, and people she could not save. She started to ask herself, what is it all for? Why bother if she is going to fail? Then she recalled the words of Louisoix many years ago when he left Charlayan. To ignore the plight of those one might conceivably save is not wisdom, it is indolence. We must all protect that which we hold most dear in the manner of our own choosing. We have to try and save them, do we not? Suddenly, she snaps back to reality and realizes that this talk we've been having is very one-sided, and instead wants to hear tales of our adventures in Ishgard. I traveled far and wide with two companions, Istinian and Yaseo, who were polar opposites of each other. She remarks at the circumstance and is completely spot on about them being at each other's throats the entire time. We must have kept some sort of peace between them because we were able to complete our journey. So many people's hopes and dreams rest upon our shoulders. For the sake of those we hold dear, we will continue to forge ahead. Under that same starry night, we can see the Warrior of Darkness holding a corrupted crystal of light and looking directly at it. The masked man comes and asks why does he cling on to a tainted gift of Mother. Every tool has its purpose. Either way, what did he come here to talk to him about? The plan to get the kobolds to summon Titan has been ruined, but Titan's death didn't cause the kobolds to despair enough. Elidibus wants them to proceed with the original plan. The Warrior of Darkness punches the nearby fence in anger. Every time he isn't successful, is a higher chance that the flood will wipe out his world. Now that Ishgard's problems have been solved, the Scions are no longer distracted, meaning that they can devote all of their spare time and energy to stopping the Ashian schemes. The Warrior of Darkness is getting suspicious that this masked man may be still interested in helping his old friends. But that is not his intent. He only intends to look at the path before them with caution. Instead, let's consider a different course of action, one that can invoke a rejoining. The Ashians aren't required to do so. Instead, defeat your enemy. Strike down the Warrior of Light, who would rather see your home lost to the light. If he were to disappear, all of Source would be plunged into chaos. He knows what he is suggesting, yes. To ignore the plight of those one might conceivably save is not wisdom, it is indolence. A creed of the masked man's teacher, words he holds so very close to his heart. The Warrior of Darkness thinks for a moment, and then gives the masked man permission to lure the Warrior of Light out. The masked man stays behind once the Warrior of Darkness has left, lamenting at his own words. What good is a creed if he doesn't follow it? Minfilia, my friends, I won't beg for your forgiveness. Even though it pains him to walk this path, he shall not stray from it. We are still trying to figure out who is providing the Beastmen with crystals. Urianger has some information as to who it might be, a group who work under Eline Rowley, who is also known as Ivy. Yes, the very same one who was second in command under Rawban, the Garlean spy who was leaking all of the Alliance's plans to Garlemald. The group has supplied more crystals to a group of refugees who are devoted to the liberation of Ala Mhigo. To figure out where the shipments came from, it is time we visited little Ala Mhigo. We see that there is a gathering of refugees who are being spoken to by a man who is known as the Griffin. He is the leader of Ala Mhigan rebellion. He rallies up the people to reignite the fight that has dwindled in their heart. 20 years ago, Garlemald claimed Ala Mhigo as its own, as they were distracted trying to overthrow the King of Ruin. The King of Ruin refers to King Theodoric I. He was the last king of Ala Mhigo. His reign of terror lasted 11 years. In his time, he persecuted the monks of the Fist of Ralga and destroyed the Temple of the Fist, saying it was for the sake of Nymea, who is also one of the 12. He commits purges on his own people, all for the sake of wealth. Even his own queen tried to put a stop to him, but she too was betrayed by a nobleman and killed. He ended up being taken down after 11 years because the people revolted, which caused his Kingsguard and his own personal army, the Corpse Brigade, to flee, leaving him vulnerable. When King Theodoric was surrounded, he took the easy way out and took his own life. After they dealt with the King of Ruin, they forgot about the threat to the north. That was when Garlemald came in and took control of a vulnerable Girabania, and where the Ala Mhigans fled their homeland. He cannot forget about those who were left behind. He knows that they too feel the same shame. They abandoned them, their own brothers in arms, leaving them to be forced into labor until they draw their last breath. Spending that time building steel structures which desecrate their majestic mountains, to be conscripted into the Garlean army and forced to fight on the wrong side. Gaius von Balzar is dead, but there is a new leader in Ala Mhigo, one that is just as merciless. The Eorzean Alliance won't do anything. It is time for them to free their brothers from the Empire. The crowd are rallying behind the Griffin's words. They feel the same. They all want to save their comrades and finally have their homeland returned to them. At the end of the speech, we spot two familiar silhouettes. It is Yda and Papalymo. Where have they been all this time? Why are they here? How did they survive the bloody banquet? All of these questions will have answers, but first we should have a reunion in a more fitting location. They fled the banquet and were aided by the resistance. They were given a place to lay low for a while at Little Ala Mhigo. To repay them, they decided to assist them in their operations. Once they heard everything was back to normal, they tried to contact us, but their missive was intercepted. In an exchange of information, we tell them why we came to Little Alamahigo, that the masks have the means to summon a primal. It may be shocking, but on multiple occasions, Yda has heard them say that they have the power to defeat the Empire. To figure out what the Resistance is truly up to, we need to question one of their leaders. To get him to drop his guard, we must act as if we are adventurers who have fallen on hard times, who are inspired by his words and want to fight the good fight. We lay in wait outside of Little Alamahigo for Yda and Papalymo to bring the griffin to us, and we play our part perfectly. The Resistance for a very long time have avoided confrontation with Garlemald, but now they boldly antagonize them. Do they intend to summon a primal? Realizing that we are no ordinary adventurers, but actually the scions of the Seventh Dawn, he allows himself to be interrogated. He is following orders to obtain them, and as for the reason why they obtained them, it isn't to summon a primal. It was used to trade with the Amalja. In exchange for crystals, they would aid them in Alamahigo's liberation. Now we have another problem on our hands. They are being given so many crystals, it's only a matter of time until the Amalja decide to summon Ifrit. Yda and Papalymo will check camp to see if the griffin is telling the truth, and once that information has been discerned, we will gather the scions and make way for the Amalja territory, Za'harak. Something is off. There are no guards anywhere. We are allowed to walk freely through their territory. In the distance, we hear the sound of battle. Heading towards it, we spot the Warriors of Darkness dispatching nearby Amalja. They were waiting for us here. They tire of terrorizing citizens to get them to summon their primal and then dispatching it. Their aim is to plunge Eorzea into chaos. What better way to do it than to kill the Warrior of Light? One life for the salvation of one world. A battle between the Warriors of Darkness and the Scions of the Seventh Dawn breaks out. Their paladin rushes forward, but is stopped by Thancred. The bard begins to aim an arrow towards Alfinawad, but the arrow is caught out of the air by his carbuncle. Before anyone could realize, their black mace has cast a spell on Alisaie, which sends her flying. Alfinawad calls out to her, but he needn't worry. She is not the little girl she once was. Alfinawad was the clever one, but her talents lie elsewhere. She grabs her grimoire and raises it to the sky. As it slowly descends, a blade made of aether begins to manifest in front of her. She will now be able to fight side by side with Eorzea's light. The battle rages on, but the Warrior of Darkness catches every scion in his chains. Before they can finish us off, the chains were broken by the masked man. Does he intend to betray them as well? He is no betrayer. When one follows a path so advertently that they will do anything to achieve it, betrayal isn't something they think that they are doing, even if the rest of the world believes that they are a villain. Does the Warriors of Darkness truly believe that killing us will grant them salvation? No. He tears away his mask to reveal that it was Urianger the whole time. He walked the path of darkness so that the brightest light may yet shine. With Urianger on our side, we have evened the playing field. Alisaie has a strategy to win. She wants us all to channel our aether into her blade. Using our power combined, we will be able to defeat them. Her plan works flawlessly and brings all the Warriors of Darkness to their knees. Alisaie has truly kept her promise since the last time we saw her. The Warriors of Darkness are all but defeated. At least so we thought. Just as the Ashians use their crystals of darkness to retreat to a place between the realms before they are killed, The Warriors of Darkness are able to do the same thing using their Crystal of Light. They are eternal. But to be able to do that means the Warriors of Darkness are already dead. They were just adventurers. They never intended to become a Warrior of Light. But words of their deeds spread, and people started to call them heroes. The people placed their hopes and dreams onto their shoulders, which made them fight for what was good. They fought until there was nobody left to fight. They thought that they had finally won and ushered in peace for their world. But now their world is being erased from existence by a flood of light. They did everything right, and in the end it still came to this. We of all people should understand their plight. They fought for their world, and they cannot falter now. They brought it to the brink of destruction, and now they must save it once more. After hearing his words, the rest of the Warriors of Darkness rise to their feet. They were touched by his words and are motivated to fight once more. They must carry on the fight, no matter how many times they fail, for those they left behind. To an extent, we can resonate with his words too. We can see ourselves with our own fellow scions being put in the same place as they are. We want to save Eorzea with all of our being. Would we go to a different world and bring about its destruction, just so Eorzea could be saved? Each of the Warriors of Darkness grabbed their Crystal of Light and raised them to the sky, starting the process of rendering their flesh and turning themselves into aether. Urianger cannot bear witness to such sorrow and sacrifice. He tells us to take out our own Crystal of Light and hearken to its power. Our crystal is glowing ever so slightly, resonating with the Warrior of Darkness's crystals. Just as they did, we raise ours into the air, and a blinding light pulses out of it, which causes the rest of the crystals of light to do the same thing. The bright light swallows everyone nearby. Once we open our eyes again, we find ourselves dragged into the ethereal sea by Hydaelyn. Urianger pleads with her. Has she not heard of the sorrow and anguish of these people? Let us have an audience with the word of the mother, Minfilia. Slowly a bright light descends from the sky until Minfilia manifests in front of everyone. She turns to the Warriors of Darkness, telling them that their world is not yet destroyed. To save their world, she will go there herself and drown the light. Instead of being happy to hear that their world can be saved, he is instead mad that it took Hydaelyn this long to answer their pleas. The Warrior of Darkness cannot bear it anymore and rushes at her with his axe. Minfilia stops his axe and apologizes to him. Zodiac has its emissaries, being the Ashians, whereas Hydaelyn has none. But with the bounty of light we have brought her, she is able to separate Minfilia from herself and use her as an emissary to save the first. Upon hearing that, the Warrior of Darkness stops his assault. She then turns to us, thanking Urianger for the chance to see everyone's faces one last time. Urianger learned of the first, and the warriors who are exactly like the scions of the Seventh Dawn. Hearing their tale was just too much for him to bear, and he had to find a solution. The only thing he could conclude was setting light against dark, and having the powers of the crystals save them. But he knew that their salvation would not come without a sacrifice. He did not come here to save Minfilia, but instead to send her away. One life, for the salvation of one world. Minfilia is in agreement with Urianger. If this is what it takes to save the lands which she cares so deeply about, she will do it. She says her final farewells to everyone. Before leaving, she entrusts Tupsimati to us, hoping that we may never have to use it. The Warriors of Darkness fight is over. The light in their crystals are spent. To truly earn their trust, they want to be taken back to the first. Take them back home, so that they may see the results of her sacrifice. The Warrior of Darkness looks at us directly before leaving, and tells us that the light and the dark are the same. In the end, it doesn't matter which you use. What matters is how you use it. They made a choice, and we saw their outcome. So please, forge a different path. Seize a better fate. Minfilia takes the Warriors of Darkness to the first. never to be seen again. Before leaving for the first, Minfilia speaks to Philomene, her adoptive mother, thanking her for everything and telling her that she loves her. We reappear back in Thanalan. There is nothing more to do or say, except gather all the scions of the Seventh Dawn back at the Rising Stones. Even though we are all gathered here once more, we are not the same that gathered prior to the banquet. In our travels through Ishgard, we have learned that lofty causes won't get us anywhere, but fighting for something which we believe in with all of our heart will drive us further. The Scions need to have individual goals and principles that drive them towards the salvation of Eorzea, and not be bound by one single idea. Y'shtola will continue her studies of the world. If people are in need of her knowledge, they only need to ask. Urianger believes he is undeserving of our trust after the duplicity stunt he pulled, but Thancred won't even hear it. By not carrying on as a group, we wouldn't be following Minfilia's words. She entrusted the protection of the star to us, and to understand the truths that hide at its very core. Thancred can do the protecting, but Urianger is better suited to finding the truths of the world. Papalymo and Yda will return to Little Alamahigo and keep watching the resistance. Alisaie and Alfinward want to be separated from the name Leveilleur. They don't want to live in their grandfather's shadow. They want to be treated as a fellow comrade in arms. Tatari will continue to maintain the paperwork and the finances. And what about us, the warrior of light? To strive for those we have lost, for those we can yet save. The path behind us is filled with hardship. The path in front of us will be no less different. But a new dawn will break over the realm, and before us lies the people who will deliver it.
One world's heroes are another world's villains. One world's loss, another world's gain. Where men go as one, there is life. And where there is life...
Papalymo wants to be entrusted with safeguarding Tupsimati. As Master Louisoix's disciple, he wants to keep it close at hand as shadows loom in the horizon. We don't see a reason why he can't, and allow him to take his master's staff.
There is cause to hope. For every ending, every parting, marks a new beginning.
We see the fake Griffin reporting to the real Griffin. Whatever doubt we had about the Griffin doing something wrong is now gone. He is working with the Ashians to achieve his dream of liberating Alamahigo, for helping the Emulger by giving them crystals, and having that whole ordeal play out between the Warriors of Darkness and the Scions. The Griffin has upheld his end of the bargain, and for that he was granted the Eyes of Nidhogg. Even though we cast them into the abyss, those eyes have managed to resurface yet again. We should have destroyed them when we had the chance. Nerotol Skaver is seen exploring the Cartanu Flats. In the end, he may have found something. Could it be Omega? We were told it was here by Nanimo, which is why Teleji Adeleji wanted to take control of the Cartanu Flats. May you ever walk in the light of the crystal.